Welcome back to Man on the Mic podcast with your host MC Kitoto the Party Recipe alongside
the architect of dreams Alimbacho Murenga.
Yeah, and as you can see on the screens, we've been privileged, we've been honored, we've been graced with professionalism. So kindly introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Happiness Kirigo. I'm a psychologist by profession and I'm happy to be here.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Karibu sana.
Thank you.
We're glad to have you too. we don't have many professionals that come here. Tunakuanga tuna opinionists.
Wewe acha bwana. Watu wenye natafutanga watu opinions. Watu opinions, feel free. Yeah, you can DM us, direct message us, the links are in the description if you like to come and air out your opinions. Yeah. If you're new to this channel, also take this time to subscribe, like and comment as you watch. Na kitu una agree nayo, kitu una disagree nayo, or something you think we should actually focus on more. Yeah. So Happiness kwaje?
Niko poa.
Unakaa poa. Don't worry. So based on the viewers wetu wako na title already kwa nini wanajua what we're going to discuss, but like I have a question for you guys. If you had a member of your family na ungepata chance ya kupata double portion of them. Like ungepata wawili wa hiyo as a particular member of your family, who will it be and why?
Mimi ndo nianze ama?
Wewe anza.
My uncle.
Yes, why?
My uncle, the brother to my mother. Amenisaidia sana manze, hadi alinibayanga dinga. So ningekuwa na dinga mbili.
Mama moja kubwa. Useme hivyo.
Yeah, so that
perfect. Happiness.
I think I'll say my mom. I just like venye anakuanga as a person. Anakuanga so composed. She's so strong. She's so smart. She has her stuff figured out. So I think I'd want to have twice her portion.
Okay. I think mimi ningekuwa na chance ya kukuwa na double portion of someone will be my eldest brother. Anakuanga msumbufu, but that guy has the cleanest of hearts nishaiona kwa hii dunia. So yeye manze, na unajua venye watu semanga sijui the first born child anakuanga na trauma za familia zimeenda zote kwake. Mimi sijaiona naye. If Fatola konazo
ni kwa hiyo usumbufu unasema.
If Fatola konazo aje tuletea. Mimi sijai feel yenyewe ati tuko na discourse fulani na siblings na na feel covering yake ndio imekuwa the biggest impact. So that man, big up upon yourself. Yes, so we go dive right into it. Yes, now that there's professionalism, hapo hizo ulizo swali za mbwakni ali. Sawa. So, who do you think I think say tumefika generation ya we usually kuna the tendencies of wanting to, we feel like ukinikosea you are toxic. And I feel like it's a no-brainer that as long as uko kwa relationship na mtu, okay, any sort of relationship, mtakosana. So who do you think wanaletanga shida ya toxicity? And what does toxicity look like for you? And who do you think is the biggest cause? Is it the parents or the children?
First of all, umeanza na kusema that tunasemanga vitu ni toxic ukikosewa or something. But I feel like toxic is such a big word. Yeah. Kuna mtu akikukosea hizi ndogo, maybe they've faulted as a human being, maybe they lied to you, or kitu kidogo, they said something that maybe they didn't mean and it hurt you. I don't think you'll refer to that as toxic. But for you to identify someone as toxic, lazima kuwe na pattern. Yeah, you've addressed this issue, it's still not getting resolved. And your question was, how does it look like? It looks like you'll actually just see it. Mtu akikufanyia things over and over again and it's hurting you, no matter how small it is, that's toxic. Kama umeji explain and maybe they've said that they'll reform and then they don't reform, I'll refer to that as toxicity.
Okay.
Yeah.
The question to your statement. So inamaanisha toxicity, so it can be just different to people. For example, there are some things that
you might do to me. How venye mimi naichukulia, I take it as something toxic. Somebody else cannot take it as toxic. So hii toxicity inaweza kuwa sana si ati huyo mtu mwenye ana give something ndio mtoxic ni response yangu.
Also the response, yeah. Also how the impact on you. Because kuna watu wanakuanga na different values, right? Like the people who really value honesty.
Yeah.
And if you're not honest with them, it almost feels like betrayal. And there are people who it's not like a big deal to them to just sneak a lie here and sneak a lie there. So to that person, if someone else lies to them, it might not have as much impact as to you, whose maybe your core value is honesty.
Okay.
You see?
So somebody can be toxic to a specific person but not toxic to another person, even though they're just doing the same thing.
trait.
Yeah.
So shida ni ya nani? Si recipient.
Exactly. Ukiweka hivyo mimi naona ukweli ukiweka hivyo inamaanisha shida ni humu ndio na receive. Wewe ndio unafaa kuwa on your thick skin. Ama
Not really. Huyo mwenye ana receive anafaa kujua. First of all, kama uko environment enye toxicity na kusurround everywhere, I feel like ni time ya kujiondoa from that situation. But if someone is doing something and it's not affecting you now, you don't feel like it will affect you later, then kama kuna madem wanasemanga if a guy cheats on them, it's a normal thing. But there are people who wako like once they cheat, it's over. You see? So you'll look at cheating in that context as it being toxic, but if it's not affecting the other person, then
It doesn't count as toxic.
Yeah.
Okay,
No, it does count as toxic, but it doesn't affect that other person. Yeah.
So if it is a poison that is not killing you, it is not a poison. Ni kama tu kitu imeandikwa poison, but mimi nikikunywa niko na I'm immune towards this poison. So to me it's not toxic. It is only toxic to the other person who mwenye kikunywa itamuaffect.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that having been said, umeconfuse nini yangu knowledge yangu yote. Bear with me viewers. So with that having been said, do you feel like alipi unaweza address hii? Do you feel like now children being the recipients of whatever okay, in our society, parents wanakuanga ni kama kwanza sana parents, there are people who even term parents as gods. Yeah. Alafu now this your god ushafanya kwa supreme is like say is a supreme figure. So sana ni wewe mwenye uko chini yake, you have to level up. Do you feel like sasa sisi as children we have to shy, tunafaa kufinyilia whatever we want to say or have to say or our opinions when it comes to our parents?
No, not at all. Not at all. Especially if you're in a safe environment where you can say that na kusikwe na effects of how that person views you. Not
how
at
your parent
all.
views you.
Yeah, how your parent views you in this case. Because hizi vitu za kutoongelelea these issues that our parents do, it's a cultural norm that you can't talk back to your parent. And when you talk back, it feels like unakuwa disrespectful, inakuwa confused for you to being disrespectful. So, where I stand and what I usually advise everyone and my clients is talk about it. Don't let it kill you if you can address it. Probably, once you address it, you might come to a resolution. But the moment umenyamazia, umeacha tu in a build up, with time it will become resentment. And now that's something else we are discussing there. Yeah.
Ali, on the same question.
To some extent, unajua, in as much as we are supposed to talk about them, saa zingine tu kweli si ni might be difficult. Juu unapatanga most people wajaraiziwa na wale parents let's reason with this thing together. Ni ile parent wako akishasema ndiye yani hivyo ndo amesema. I think okay, me kwa situation kama hiyo as a non-professional mi naweza sema like if you really want to do something, you mostly hizi issues natokeanga from you are trying to do something, then you feel somebody is not like letting you do something. Yeah, if you really want to do something, you have to know that there is a sort of a price to pay. Let's tuseme tu hivyo. And maybe we mwenyewe uangalie like how much do you really want to do that thing? Is that thing so important to you that you will be willing to pay the price? Kama price ya kuconfront parent wako ama praisia, so ukiona it's not worth it, you might step back. Niwe mwenyewe tu umeshe is this worth the price that okay maybe usijua unaonaje hiyo.
I honestly feel like ukifanya hivyo inamaanisha you're not living fully to how you'd want to live. Inamaanisha that and this is so sad, but at some point like tunaweza go kwanza, but our parents will go at some point. And I'm not saying this from a point of I'm anticipating that, or
chances are
I'm
they will
okay
die
with
before
it.
us.
Those are the chances, right?
They are supposed to die.
That's how it's supposed to be. Right? So imagine it's gotten to a point that your parent has gone, and you're looking back at your life and you're like, if I did that thing, I feel like my life would have turned out differently. Meaning you're going to a place where you're full of regrets, number one, because of something that you could just have addressed. Me, I usually feel like our parents are just as humans as we are. The difference with us is that we are knowledgeable, tumepewa the ability to also be a bit liberal. Yeah, we can do what we want as long as it doesn't hurt them. I'm not talking about the extremes that unataka kuuza shamba ya mzazi wako and
na yeye understand
and I understand that you need some money. See hivyo, I'm talking about like things that you can actually just say that maybe kama career wise mzazi alikuwa anataka ukue daktari, kwanza sisi tulikuwa na hizo vitu sana. Yeah, ulikuwa unaambiwa what you need to be. Kama mimi nilikuwa najua for sure nitakuwa actual scientist. But we thank God.
Wewe daktari.
Yeah. So I feel like if it's something that won't, and I'm not talking about hurting atile, maybe atakuwa disappointed or they need to shift their perspective, and I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about heart, ile their heart is fully broken and all of that. If it's not that extreme, then you might as well just address it. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Jumi na feeling manze hizi vitu tu zote hata hizi vitu za therapy nini zile not the West. Without the West, okay, hata tungekuwa na podcast. But ni kweli, lakini unaona tu hizi vitu zote ndio the West. Na mimi naona ni kama okay, the western part of this West ni the whites. Na mimi naona watu hata ukiona like how blacks address their parents and how whites address their parents, kuna ka difference fulani. Juu black kids wananyoroshwa, white kids wanapewa time out. Sasa sisi wewe Gen Z anaamua anataka pia time out. Atanataka time out na mzazi mwenye alilelewa na okay, the parent to your parent was a mau nini war hero, unaona. Sasa yeye hakuwa na hiyo time ya kubembeleza. So your parent was whooped, your parents akajua akasoma. The only part of the Bible you understand ni spare the rod, spoil the child. Hiyo ndo ameshikilia. So mpaka yana Mungu ameisupport. Do you feel like we also have to come down to their level? You said that we are knowledgeable, okay, we are more exposed, so do we have to come back down to a level to understand? Ama hao ndo sasa we have to, these old dogs need to learn new tricks.
Yeah. Wacha nikwambie kwanza, you've just talked of a point that I had written about the parents of our parents, because that's where it all begins, with understanding how our parents act and why they do certain things that they do. I was very bitter with my dad when I was growing up, because sikuwa na get kwa nini huyu mjamaa alikuwa anapenda kutupiga hivyo. Like my dad ni wale wase kukiwa na shida kwenyu baba happy ndo atapigiwa, because Mr. Discipline master
of the estate.
Yeah, ndio atakuja sasa kusolve like everything. And it's not just even at home, hadi in our family, in our extended family, alikuwa anajulikana for that. And because of him being known as that person, you can imagine how me and me, I was raised up as an only child for a long period. So it was his frustrations on me, his everything, and it won't be my mom, because my mom, again, at that time she was in school, alikuwa anafanya her masters, so it was mostly me and him in the house. So when sasa nilikuwa grown up, and I'm so wanna regret that I didn't have this discussion with him when he was alive, because he passed on like a few years ago, and I got the confidence to talk about this as being beaten with my mom. And nilikuwa namuuliza kwa nini, because I have a smaller sister who's now 12, and our age gap, it's quite huge. So naonanga venye anakuwa brought up, and I'm like, is this the same parent? Yeah, yani huyo wa timeouts.
Yeah.
Yeye sana kwa timeouts.
Yeah.
Mimi it's the closest stool nirushiwe ndio nifikirie kenye nitafanya, you see.
Sad.
And you can see from our characters, me and my sister, we have very, very different characters. Her, she's very outspoken. She's very confident. Unaona tu hata mahali anaenda, she feels so secure. Me, on the other hand, it took me so much time to kind of like gather that confidence and that self-esteem and that courage ya kuweza kuongea and you know all of that. Where I was bringing this point, I was talking to my mom Juzi now this time that I brought that discussion, and she was telling me, wow, that's the best that they knew. That's the best that they knew. I feel like waliona haiku work na mimi because ama ili work, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but I feel like kama wali change their ways, it means that it didn't work. Because I was also I was a rebel in high school. I was a rebel. In primary, I was a rebel. Thank God I was smart because ilikuwa ina substitute hiyo kukua.
Na unapita.
Hiyo ni sawa.
But I was such a rebel, and honestly sometimes when I look back and I'm like, why was I doing some of these things? But naona it's just the attention that I was seeking. And my mom was telling me it's because they didn't know better at that time. Yeah, sisi waliona the way it hurt me, the way I was crying, the way I got depressed, and then they felt like maybe they should change their ways. And looking back, my dad's dad was a chief. Yeah, back in the day. Temia Jomo Kenyatta, my dad's dad was a chief, and on top of that, he was also like a brewer wa illicit brews. So nakumbuka ratish. Yeah, sasa ndio alikuwa master, yeye ndio alikuwa kupika. So you can imagine this guy is one indulging obviously, and he's a chief back in the day. Back in the days zile siku zenye ukikufa unatupa kwa msitu. So ni pia mtu mwenye heart yake ilikuwa hardened so much. And during the colonial times, kupigana was like the way of disciplining someone, because what else will you do? And you see, now I got to understand that enyewe huyo mzee wangu, as much as niko bitter na yeye, hata even ananichapa, it's not half of the way he was beaten while he grew up. Like here ananiona ananifanya a favor, because this man would beat me up and then aseme wacha nijishikilie nisikuchape zaidi. And me I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean usinichape zaidi? So understanding where they came from, understanding their times, you know, they're also as humans as we are. Venye sisi tunapatanga kitu ina to change perspective. It's the same with them. Like watapata something and that thing will change their perspective. I feel like that thing for my family was me, because I called them out. I'm like, no, that's not the way to go about it. Huyu mtoto ata experience this. And I'm so glad that God has given me that confidence and that courage to just be so outspoken nowadays. So yeah, humanizing them, understanding that they also have traumas, that walizaliwa in a generation full of traumas. They knew they had to be hardened so that they make it in life. It's not the same thing with us. Sisi tunafinya laptop inatoa $1 na tuko sawa, you know. So yeah,
Kweli.
It's very different. Times are very different.
I think uko na kitu ku ama ni juu niko na swali 15.
Ni lessons tu na pick up. Nimepick hiyo patience, compassion, you want to try to understanding
where they're coming from. I think when it's said by a professional, itabaki mmesikia by you tunaambianga wa understand our skill. I think it's skill, especially when you say like with your background, alafu umefika place and you understand it actually the weight is you even feel that weight. You may feel hata kwa speech yako. So okay, sasa kuna hiyo place yenyewe umefika mahali tumekaa na umzazi mazee tumemwambia you are outspoken lakini hakusikii. Gen Z wameenda kwa streets juu wasikizwi na wazazi wengine. Okay, people were supposed to be their parents. So kuna hiyo aggression. Alafu kuna either you become aggressive towards them. Juu mimi nakwambia the one thing I think I've really enjoyed is watching my father raise a Gen Z. Budango alitupeleka military style. Gen Z alimdiscipline. Alikuja akakuwa sasa yeye ni mwana kondoo. When I was happy. I saw him suffer, but I was happy in his suffering. By the way, for real. Juliko na vile mbio alinitoa. enjoy that also you. So do you feel like kuna ile aggression or there's a part kuna place yenye sasa Gen Z hivyo venye tuko aggressive ama we can cut them off?
Oh, okay.
Ngoja before answer prof hebu nipatie opinion.
Ntatumia tu hiyo pattern yake. You try to be to show compassion and understanding. Mazee ikishindikana you have to go, but again always remember
hakuna aggression lakini
unajua pia like si tunajaribu kuishi in peace, unaona tunakwani tukue tena
bana peace. Unaona before peace there should be war. Okay, in most circumstances kuna wana war before peace,
lakini sasa kama mshaanza kuzozana kuliko ustay hapo vitu ziget worse. Mi nadhani you might need to go, lakini pia ina depend na age. Unajua kama you are a young guy, si young guy, you are a child. If you are a child there is nowhere to go, but I think there is some ways you can look for help. I don't know, I think but if you are a young person you have to go away and go and look for money. Let me tell you, unaona ukikuwa na pesa ukiwa na pesa watu wanafikirianga unajua kenye unafanya.
True.
For real. True. Baba wako mwenye mko mnakosana mtakuwa marafiki. So go and look for
kuchapa juu na pesa.
Ajua anaona wewe uko na shida, lakini ukikuwa na pesa
shida inaisha.
Ni kama una shida tena, wana feel nika uko sawa. Yeah,
money na play everywhere. Okay, now a professional perspective.
I feel like to understand the point where we get to cut off our parents, we need to first understand how their actions impacted us, and we will get to that later. But kuna 3 ways you can cut off your parent. Yeah, kuna one tunaitanga alienation, parental alienation. That's when mzazi moja, and this is very common, ame manipulate mtoto hadi huyo mtoto anafikiria this other parent is like the villain. Mostly happens with baby mama, baby daddy kind of situations. Unapata baby mama vitu anaambia huyu mtoto about their dad. It's from a point of first, of course, kuna your heart wako bitter and everything. But pia unaona it's like anafeel huyu mtoto na information enye hajui how it will affect them with time. People who have experienced that, for instance, unapatanga wanakuanga na such a hard issue with secure attachments, wanakuanga na such an issue with their self-esteem. Unapata like those are things that they struggle with. Kuna fear of abandonment, fear of rejection. So wewe na kenye uli go through kuna venye itaji exhibit in your life. So there's that parental alienation, and then kuna emancipation. Emancipation means mtoto ameamua anataka kukua their own adult even before they get to an age where they're legal. That's not very common in our country, but it happened to a child of Michael Jackson. She just wanted to go and be. It happened to Megan Fox, if you know Megan Fox. Yeah. So na Eminem pia. Eminem is like at least when Eminem tunamjua. So yeah, like how ni watu wale waliamua because of how this relationship with their parents was. Unapata some of them were raised by parents who are junkies, wale wako into addictions. So after the funds, they're not really managing them well. Those are the reasons why ina get to that point. And it's a legal process. Hiyo ingine ni just emotional. And then sasa, kuna hii yenye sasa wewe tu umeamua, unakuwa estranged with your parent. Yeah, they're alive, you acknowledge that they're alive, you acknowledge that they raised you, but you acknowledge from now henceforth, you won't acknowledge them anymore as your parent. They'll just be another human. Here ndio some of the people have done estrangement, where you just cut off ties completely. Au ni watu wale wame choose peace over chaos, you know. And it happens in mostly families zenye ziko na abuse. Mtoto ame grow up in a lot of abuse. Mtoto ame grow up in a lot of violence, drugs and substance abuse, parents who are not mentally stable, which was a very hard generation for them to kind of like get their assistance. Si kama sisi. Unajua wewe ukiona umeanza kuonyesha tu dalili, kama una cheesy, the best next thing you'll do is contact a psychologist, right? During their times, ama chat gpt it.
That one.
Yeah, during their times, hizi si vitu zenye ni normal. Kama hutaombewa ipone, I mean, wengoja to go, right? So those are the differences, because some parents don't even know that they have mental issues. Stuff like being bipolar, it's very, very real in our families. Narcissistic, hiyo ni a very used term. Narcissistic people, narcissistic parents, it's a very, 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 very common thing. So there's so many issues that will lead you to cutting off your parents. But yeah, those are the 3 types of.
Do you feel like sasa? Okay, have you finished? Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Do you feel like it is actually valid to cut off your parents? Would you recommend it?
I wouldn't recommend it as the first choice.
Okay.
Yeah, if I'm seeing someone, a client in this case, and wananiambia that they're thinking of cutting off their parents, I'll work with them to kind of like understand why. And when we get to a point enyewe, you know, when this relationship is causing you, si ati tu mzazi alikushautiana you want to cut them off. Like, unaona kama tukiwa wadogo venye mzazi akikukasirisha unaandika barua na unapack. Si hivyo. Si hivyo sahi. Sahi, it's more like hii relationship yenyewe kabisa it can't work. Maybe the parent is very, very abusive. Maybe the parent ana-indulge so much, or the caregiver. It doesn't even have to be the parent. Yeah. So there are those dynamics, but I wouldn't say it's the first thing to run to. But it's something that you can consider.
Get there.
Yeah, for sure. Because our parents are also as humans. Just the way sisi tunakuanga na some people who amongst our friends are very evil, they're equally as humans. Your evil high change just because you grow old and get babies, unless you intentionally work on it and heal it. That's when utaona differences.
Me, I don't believe like a parent will intentionally want to hurt you. So Amen. How do you handle such a thing? Juu anaona ukisoma kuwa daktari ndio utatoboa. Hii mambo ya DJ haiwezi kukusaidia kitu. No, kitu kaa hiyo.
Yeah.
So how do you handle such a thing? Juu in the intent ya hati yake
ni mzuri.
Ni mzuri, ni mzuri. Lakini our interpretation for their actions seems to be bad. Hata hiyo kuchapwa labda kwa hati yake anaona utarekebika utakuwa.
Yeah.
How do you handle such things? Do you believe they don't do that to hurt us?
Yeah. And that's when nilisema, first of all, I would want to understand the nature of the relationship. Some things, there are things that you can just work around. But kuna vitu ni crazy. Yeah? There's a story I was listening to last week, and this lady was talking about how her mom would bring guys to their home and force her to sleep with these guys. Mzazi kama huyo.
Yeah.
Tunataka uomoke.
That's a no.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, cultural norm yetu ni cultural norm yetu ni our parents always want what's best for us. But some of these parents, they're not stable. And I'm not saying that's the biggest percentage. The biggest percentage ni wazazi wako sober na wale wanajua that this is a child and I need to do what's right and best for them. But there's some parents who are not sober. There's some parents who have underlying mental issues, serious deep-rooted mental issues. So how on your extremes wenye naweza sema,
you need to,
that's okay, you can cut them off. That's okay, because at that point you'll be choosing your own peace. Yeah. And you know, sometimes unachaguanga peace even if it means loving them from afar, you know. Yeah. So
I think tu kitu inanisumbua ni hati ona tu kisema I want to bring like the children aspect of it, in that I believe that every relationship, maybe you let me know instance zenyu, has to be symbiotic, in that you give and I receive, and I also give and you receive, but hezi kwa one way. But I feel like therapy has manipulate our thinking into knowing that parents are only there to give only mpaka wakufe. Yes. And then children are there to receive. So unapata hata mtoto mamake anangangana sana ukweli. Lakini wewe umeanza kujiweza lakini bado utaki kumsaidia juu for you mzazi anafaa kukua anakupea. And most unajua wasemanga only two people wish you well in this, that you do better than them, your teacher and your parent. Hao ndio watakanga ukue better than them. Lakini the rest sasa hawa watu wanataka ukue, your parents sasa ata sacrifice a lot, but ikifika place sasa tunaweza kuona at it is not mimi sikuchaguliwa mimi sikukwambia unizae, unaona. Like are we being therapy, I feel like therapy is teaching us to be very selfish.
Yeah, nilikuwa nataka kukuuliza hiyo ni therapy ya wapi?
Unaona hiyo therapy
hajawahi enda therapy
actually fanya hapa ya
sijui umesikia wapi hiyo
unless ni therapy ya ChatGPT, na hatuwezi sema ni therapy mwitu because mimi ni therapist mwitu.
Hizi kwa mwitu sasa tumie jina mwitu sahi. I feel unaona at the end of the day
ajibu swali kwanza, hiyo ni therapy ya wapi?
Si nimekwambia hapa episode 3 za Alfi na kuenjoy hiyo. Si hata ni kwa me okay, what people really advocate for self love, and self love ukiangalia tu vizuri venye inakwanga packaged ni selfishness.
Sasa zingine inapitishwa sana
ni selfishness kabisa. Sasa hata kujua tu hiyo line ya selfishness na narcissism tena inaanza kupita
na kitoto umeanza kuleta vitu zingine. Narcissism imeingililia
wapi? Unaona narcissist anaangalia ni better than other people.
True.
Hebu niambie na mtu selfish difference ni nini?
Kila kitu ni yake.
They're keeping it to themselves.
Sasa unaona self love. Self love venye inakuwa package ndo inanisumbua. Juu tumeanza kuwekwa juu let me ask Happy. Unaona ngani kama hiyo watu wakiambanga hiyo mambo ya when they push for self love haikwangi ni uhold vitu for yourself?
I don't.
Or to think of you kila saa. Kila mtu anakataa kwa room.
No.
Nimetu wengine kamera zingine. Hatuna hiyo kamera yake but sawa.
But nikitry ku understand pia kitu kitoro anasema ni saa zingine kuna vitu tu zingine tusijui tukubali tu kidogo. Tuseme you cannot, watakuambia for example in the case that we're talking about parents and children. I don't think your parent will 100% do everything you want. At least to some point inafaa tu tukubali ni sawa to prioritize relationship yetu. Wacha tuko na hii relationship
wewe ni mzazi wangu
kuliko ni kuje kila kitu na kukalisha chini hapa umenikosea hapa unajua sijapenda hapa. Unajua kwa therapy mimi sijaienda lakini tuseme tu kitu tumesikia kwa therapy like vitu tumesikia mimi ni sort of like as if everything just matters. You have to really be at yani uji express fully yani be at your perfect mental whatever, and we are living with people and nobody is going to do 100% what you want them to do. Na ni kama therapy yenye mimi nimesikia nika inaleta hii aspect ya always speak your mind, always sijui kama umeget hiyo.
Nimeget, but na feel like nyinyi wote wawili mnafaa ku experience therapy kwanza.
To experience
as a package sababu I feel like unaona what you're explaining therapy to be is what is probably put out there, because I feel like there's some pretty accurate representation of what therapy looks like. But in therapy or in psychology, the most important thing ni kuempower the self. Wewe mwenye umekuja as my client, si kuempower au wale shida zako. You see, and it's to strengthen you to be able to confront those things without those things necessarily affecting you or zinakuweka at like a point of stagnation. Na kenya nyinyi wote mnaonesha from what you're saying ni mko na fear of confrontation.
Oh my Lord.
Which is also a trauma response from your growing up.
Ndio maana trauma response to this podcast.
Ndio maana nawaambia you need to like actually experience therapy for you to actually kind of like understand it, because kwanza venye explain self love, packaging self love ni ukweli you are the center, you as a person, and you're doing things that are good for you, that work for you, you see. So ndio maana unaweza sema inakaa like it's selfish, which kidogo it is. But self-love is a way of giving back.
It is.
Kidogo.
It is.
It is. And it's not a bad thing because self-love is giving back to yourself. And you see, as a human, you can't pour from an empty cup. You need to re-energize yourself. You need to rejuvenate. You need to continue, pouring into yourself. Ni watu wakikuja, ndio kama Happiness akikuja hapa kwa hii podcast, she has something that she can share. Me empowering myself, me reading at home, that's a form of self-love for me. You understand?
Yeah.
So that's how I'd want both of you and everyone else who's listening to look at self-love as, first of all, you're giving back to yourself and you're pouring into yourself so that as you walk around, you're not an empty cup.
Kidogo tu tuseme kama we work together.
Yeah.
He's someone who is more gravitated towards English and vocabularies. So tukipost video kwa titles anaeka English mingi na vocabularies. Kitu yenye mimi inanisumbua mental health yangu. So nikiamua tu mimi ninyamaze tuendelee na kazi yetu hapa kwa amani. Hiyo si tu iko sawa ama
You're in fear of confrontation and mekwambia tu side.
I'm supposed to confront.
You're supposed and confronting si kushikana mashati. Si hiyo.
Utanijua.
Confronting pia inaweza kaa like just a simple conversation kama venye umesema. Unaenda unamwambia bedhe kitoto mimi wasi like tukieka like heavy vocab on the videos. And this is why. Una reason na yeye. Kama ata reason na wewe, then inamaanisha mko at the same place. But kama hataweza ku reason na yeye, inamaanisha hamko in the same place.
Labda ako chini yangu.
Comme si comme ça.
Ngoja. Okay, una feel satisfied. Sasa let us go back to the question nilikuwa nimeuliza. Like, do you feel like children wawache hiyo maneno ya sisi watoto tuache tu kusumbua wazazi, tuache tu na tuanda? Okay, you already talked about understanding. Like, should we also extend a helping hand? Ama hiyo ndo self love kama to extend a helping hand?
Of course you should. You should. This is your parent, for Christ's sake. Yeah, huyu ni mzazi mwenye ameku bring up, within the conditions that ulikuwa raised up. Everyone has a different background.
Unajua kitu naumanga sana hapi ni nini? Mtu anaona juu sikuchagua kuzaliwa, wewe ndio ulidecide to have me. You are not entitled to anything that I am, that I have.
Yeah.
Okay, entitlement ni mbaya. Wacha tuseme entitlement hata kuna mtu afaa kuenda, hata wewe mwenyewe. Lakini you don't deserve. Bas deserving ndio nini the correct word. Like, do you feel parents actually deserve to be treated well?
They do.
Sindio?
They deserve the world. They've done so much for us. Kama si wao hatungekuwa hapa. And as much as the situation could have been different and it could have been maybe tough when we were growing up, but they did it. Si rahisi could bring, by the way, a child to life and, see it through to where it is. And ukiona watu wale wako na those kind of relationships na wazazi wao and wanataka tukuji distance, there must be something. There must be something that is underlying. There must be a problem somewhere. Because naturally, the way we are raised, iyo hata si kusema ati sababu ni mzazi wangu. It's just because it's the human thing to do. Spoiling your parents, doing what's right for them. I think watoto wanafaa kufanya hivyo, if that's the question. Children, please do right by your parents.
Like tuseme inafikaga point flani, you have grown up, now you are no longer a child, you are a big person, respected your parent, honored them. Now you have gotten, as a man, you have a wife. Now your wife comes and now doesn't like so much of what your mother is saying. We also say mother-in-law. Do you have any knowledge on how to handle situations like this?
Yeah, sasa siwezi sema from
real life. Nadhani hiyo ndo inakuanga shida. Watu ukihepa huku kwa your family, sana sana utapatana maybe wife yako apendani na sister yako or other family members. Still a family matter here.
Sasa on that, siwezi sema najua from experience. Sababu mimi sijakutana na
umekuja side ya opinion.
So hata nikuja kwa opinion. So I think in that kind of a situation, wewe ndio mwerevu, wewe ndio mjanja. You're the one who knows both of them. And if you feel like there are situations where you might, kama nilikuwa nasikia kitambo, kukalia kiti ya mbele ya gari mother-in-law na the wife wanapata wameshikania the handle and they don't know what to do. I think in a situation like that, you know your mom, you know your wife, yeah, nani ataweza ku reason na nani? I feel like your wife is the one who can reason, or your mom kama hauna fear ya confrontation. Yeah. So in that case it will be easy because ni kuongea tu. Imagine inakwanga kuongea tu, just talking about it. And bedhe kama hawata understand hapo now, then you know there's a problem somewhere. But I feel like everything can be resolved kuongea tu. Yeah, just saying what you think.
Mimi nakwanga na kitu kingine hapa inakwanga imenisumbua sana. As we conclude, juu time yetu pia inaisha. God in all his wisdom, in all his his grandness, and we know that he is good. Hata yeye ametupatia option ya kumchoose yeye. Like God does not ajaji force kwako. You have the choice to choose him through his son, that is. Sasa kuingia theology part of it. Lakini wazazi wetu hatukupatia option ya kuchoose. Do you feel like there's a message in a sent up that he cutting off? Sasa yezi kwa tu rahisi hivi.
Maybe, but tungepatia option ya kuchoose, I think some people will be having very many children.
Kwa tumelimbukia Bill Gates bana.
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk mwadandia mbaya sana. Ai,
kitu crazy ni kuna watu wenye wana believe, they don't believe in the God you are saying. I wanna believe like hizo reincarnation. Kuna na hiyo option ya kuchoose where you will be born. Na shockingly kuna a story of a certain kid mwenye aliambia parents wake, I chose you are in this place, and mentions places zenye hata hajaienda na anazijua by name, anajua the color. It was kind of a weird thing. But hizo
sanotaki kuargue sana. What do you think about you?
I think you know, if you're looking at it from perspective, yeah, God knew us even before we were born. Yeah, tunambangwa that he knew when we were being formed in our mother's womb. I don't think when it happened by chance. Of course we're not given the choice, but it doesn't happen by chance. Mali umezaliwa. And from that situation, for sure you have a purpose. You have a purpose and you have something that will get you out of, you know, maybe victorious, maybe you're the person who's gonna break the trauma, generational trauma nyemekwa, maybe you're the person when you break. So for everything, I personally believe that where I am, I was destined to be there. I was destined to be brought up by the parents that brought me up. Because nilikuwa nafikiria, if it had been different for me, maybe singekuwa interested with mental health. And mental health has honestly brought so much difference to my life because imenisaidia hata kukuwa an easy person. So there's there's all of that comes with it. So I believe that there's a purpose with the lack of that choice.
Yeah.
We get.
And you cannot change yesterday, but you can change tomorrow.
Amen.
Sawa.
Okay, as we conclude, do you feel kuna kitu wenye ulikwenda kusema that na nimekusuway that you haven't gotten the chance to?
Sikuwa na so much that I wanted to say that hatujaongelea, but nilikuwa nataka maybe to bring light on how we can be aware of the impact of our parents' actions. So I wrote down something and nilikuwa tunataka like what to understand that sometimes your anxiety, hiyo fear yenye unakuanga nayo, it manifests in you because of the things that happen, and that's why it's so important to go for therapy. And even if you don't go for therapy, you can do your actual inner work, your personal inner work. Unajichambua, una bring A, B, C and you puzzle them together. Okay, like nakuanga na a short temper and I want to fix this. How do I go about it? Inaanza from the very beginning. Why mbona niko na a short temper? Probably nikiwa mdogo sikuwa nakuwa allowed to speak out for myself, and that was seen as being disrespectful. That's why I had to be quiet and nika suppress so much anger. That's when you're gonna a short temper. Stuff like that. Because with finding meaning to things, you're with putting logic to something, you're able to find action steps za kusonga mbele. Yeah, you're able to actually know how you can be able to move forward. So maybe it's a homework to you and to your viewers as well. Go do the inner work. See by chance that you cry at every minor inconvenience, or you lose it when the pressure is too high. It's not by chance that you're struggling with that addiction. It's not by chance that when I struggle with depression, do the inner work. There's a reason why, and mostly it translates back to our bringing up. So yeah, please make sure you do.
Noma sana.
Uko na kitu uwezi
Siwezi ongeza
kitu after hiyo. I think kuna swali kama imenini. Okay, but do you thank you happy for the session that we've had here kwa episode.
Ni kweli imekuwa therapy.
Imekuwa therapy because I feel like from this episode, from this session, parents can actually learn a lot, and also the children. Now, I strongly believe that if we sort out the family, everything else in this society. Jota hizo Gen Z kwa streets ilianza tu kwa familia. Imeanza tu kwa familia, imebuild ni moto imebuild tu na mtu mmoja. Imebuild from background. So ina expose tu ni inafanyika home. So if we could try and sort out, so
street na lazima tuende. Things are not very okay, and it's our democratic right
to go to the street. So when the two tembe. Happiness with that having been said, asante sana. We've come to the end of our session. Unaweza taka kuacha your details, because I'll share your social media and jina yako ya TikTok. Jina yako ya TikTok is funny, therapist mwitu. But it was a very creative. Hata ilifanya ni rahisi kuapproach kuje. Can I leave your number also?
Yes, for sure.
If you don't have a problem with it, I think I'll leave the number, the social media handles on the description. And if you like to reach out, umona kazi yake,
please do.
Umona kazi yake. So, and I hope we can have you again.
For sure. I think this is very interesting, and I feel like ata tume just scratch the surface of this discussion.
Ata scratch tumegusa tu. Next kuja to scratch.
But it's a really nice discussion. I've really had a good time. Make sure we heal. Let's make sure sisi wale tuko aware, let's heal so that the children that come after us, they don't spend their lifetime healing from our actions.
Or invent bana. Wakwe kazi.
Perfect. With that having said, thank you for listening in to the very last end of this episode. We are glad that you made time to be with us on the very first day of the week. I hope this blessed you. And if you have something to share, a comment, leave it at the comment section. Follow us on our social media handles. The links are on the description. Are on the description. You can also follow therapist and reach out to her. Atakusaidia.
For sure.
Be kind to someone. Enjoy the rest of your week of work. Bye.